Well, it's halfway into the season we go as we hit Monza here for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's road course series for 2026. And what an opening first half of the season we've had. It's been an amazing fight between Marcus Byfeld and Henrik Lindhoff. In the first 4 races, they traded wins 2 apiece. But last time out, Laguna Seca, Marcus Byfeld getting the double has secured him just a 4-point lead as we come into Europe. It is myself, Cam Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we bring you the Feather Online Gaming race here from Monza. Here's where we've been so far this season. We started at the Nürburgring. We went to America for a couple of races in Virginia and Laguna Seca. We're back here in Europe for Monza before we go to Interlagos, Brands Hatch, Sonoma and Suzuka between now and the end of April. So that's all going to come very, very quickly in the next couple of months to find out who our series champion is going to be. Byfeld has won 3 of the last 4 championships in the road course series, but Henrik Lindhoff is doing his best to keep him under pressure. Lindhoff securing those 2 victories in the feature races in both Nürburgring and Virginia secured him the lead of the championship, but he struggled a little bit for pace last time. Marcus Byfeld was able to get the double victory, and to be honest, he was just clearly the fastest driver at Laguna Seca. So let's find out what happens as a 4-point lead is very, very easy to overcome, with it already being a 5-point difference between first and second place. We have already had the qualifying session. We're on the grid and we are looking towards an interesting feature race a bit later, potentially with some rain coming your way, but it's all dry for the sprint race. And here is the grid. Byfeld and Lindhoff on the front row, as you would expect, just 0.4 of a second between them. Sundström and Holmer are in the second row behind. Then we have Norberg and Backman inside the top 6. Stralberg and Broström come alongside with Giros, Schott, Tier and Autowill inside the top 12. Obviously, these drivers just going into a second off the pace. Hillestrom, Svensson, Schuh, Ericsson, Crook and Svensson, the top 18 drivers before we get Rosqvist, Motin, Hagman, Bredesen, Gunnarsson and Forsberg on the front 12 rows. Pennix, Gran, Frisk, Olsen, Everton, Olberg there up inside the top 30. Then we got Dahlstrand, got Matheson, Norberg, Karlsson, Wallingston and Kinnell, the top 36, and of course a full grid as ever. Broström, Forsell, Reistad, Magnusson and Ulriksson at the end of the field. We have a couple of drivers not setting laps, Stiller, Pfeffer and Ullman. So 45 cars, Ewan O'Leary, heading down into the first corner at Monza, which is notoriously pretty much the hardest first corner we have in the whole of racing.
Yeah, exactly. Linus Broström popped in just before he came in on air to share his condolences with those who are going to start at the back of this race, because I would actually argue they've got a decent deal. I feel more sorry personally for those in the middle of the field, to be honest. Nowhere to go. You could get rear-ended. You could run into the guy in front of you. And it might indeed not be your fault, and that's just the peril of starting right in the middle. For me, you either want to be right at the front here or right at the back. Speaking of being right at the front, Marcus Byfeld has taken his 13th straight pole position in this series over the course of season upon season. He started this one very, very well indeed, but as you said, when going through the championship standings here, just 4 points between him and Henrik Lindhoff. Last round was massive in that Byfeld was able to take 2 in a row for the first time, and Lindhoff has got to put an end to that. He's got to at least go 1-1 this time round, if not take both wins, but certainly get at least 1 race victory to his name this time round so that he can regain some of those points that he lost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely, because he was leading the championship, losing that double victory meant he's only 4 points behind. But if he does that again, then it's going to be, maybe even 15-point gap or so, which is going to become very, very difficult to overcome. But anyway, it's the Feather Online Gaming race here from Monza. It's the midway point in the season for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's road course series, and we're going to get underway with all these GT3 cars sending it all the way down into the first corner. This could be quite interesting. We're already 3-4 wide as Lucas Olsen's already been black flagged at the start of this race. Byfeld leads, and we're going to see Lindhoff trying to get down the inside in towards turn 1, not enough to make the move. So it's actually going to be on the outside. Dan Holmer trying to work his way through over the curb, squeezing out Sundström as we come through Curva Grande.
Look at the stack up on the inside of turn number 2. They're sorting it out a little bit now, but some guys are coming to a stop back there. because of the nature of the first chicane. Thankfully, it looks like for the most part it's actually been very clean. The top two single file already, but Holmer and Sundström still fighting here. Sundström trying to get to his teammate and help him, and he's going to be shut behind Holmer. And now Sundström might well go backwards because Norberg goes past. Here comes Jo Stroberg as well. He won't be able to get through as well. But Sundström there, in trying to get into third, has lost a couple of places.
Yeah, that's the classic move there at Monza, is to get that switch back, coming down into Lesmo 1, and a perfect move there for Norberg. And this is also quite an important position for Holmer because he is third place in the championship, so top 3 on the road, top 3 in the championship, so this could secure him points. The next car behind him is Linus Broström, who's down in 7th place, so a few points being gained there. And for Norberg, he's currently sitting 10th place in the championship, so this could certainly push him up a little bit. So a great start there for the number 6.
Yeah, absolutely. He's crawling all over the back of Holmer here, coming out of Ascari as well, if there can be a move maybe into the final corner. I mean, it's easy for these guys to say, well, we're probably not going to win this race anyway. Beifeld and Lindorf are going to be very, very difficult to keep in check here, so let's just fight it out between ourselves here for third position, and that seems already like what they're doing. As further down the fights continue as well. This will be a theme all the way down the field.
Yeah, this is actually not too far behind Olsen, who's been black flagged, so he'll have to come at some point. We're going to go almost 4 wide here as we come down this front stretch. This is dangerous. We are 4 wide for a moment in time. And this is Everton trying to work his way through. And the 117, that is Nicholas Grand that is involved with there, as well as also Pennings in the orange machine, who's going to just about hold on to that. And there we also see Pennings Grand, I should say, get through on Everton. And that is for all the way down in P23, but they're fighting as hard as if it was a top 10.
Yeah, and as well they might as well, because it is hard to get through so many positions to get to the top 10, or for even these guys to get into a position for the reverse grid coming up for race 2 in just 20 minutes. This first race a lot shorter than the second race. There's no pit stops either, so that makes it difficult to come through quite so much, but this is one of the circuits where you might want to be doing it, because you can make the overtakes around here. There's certainly no shortage of places anyway to be making the moves here at Monza. So far, we have seen plenty of those being made. Sundström looking to regain that 4th place here, and he does, down the inside of Holmer, who's now lost a couple of places in the last lap.
And this is actually quite important, because in the team standings, we didn't show at the beginning, but there's only half a point between Simrace Sweden and nearly on pace. So they, of course, are the teams of Beifeld and Lindorf, but their teammates of Sundström and Holmer here are potentially going to be the ones who ultimately decide the team's title. They've got 47 points back to Next Level Sim Racing division, but for first and second it's just half a point between those, so this could be some crucial positions. And for those who don't know, the team standings is an average of all of the drivers' points, so it becomes a little bit closer than normal. To the outside, we're going to go for Dan Holm. He's going to get the slipstream of Norberg up ahead. Does he want to go brave on the brakes to make it the outside in turn 1, the inside for turn 2? Not enough. Backs out to that one. And Jo Stroberg is going to be sitting in behind.
Yeah. We'll continue on to try and get past Holmer now, maybe, since he's the one who's not really got the momentum. Oh dear, contact further behind. And a big stack up through the first chicane. Morten Bredesen involved, and a lot of others as well. A number of drivers have to come to a complete stop there in the first chicane. It's not the opening lap, but it did look like it there for that group.
Certainly did. And now this is an absolute cluster of cars working their way through Curva Grande down in towards the braking zone, trying to find a bit of position on the track, as Bredesen there going to be making the move as he gets up into 26th place. Wallingston, the car behind, also losing another place. Dahlstrand trying to get involved in the green Porsche here for Clutch Club Racing. They work their way now down through Lesmo 1, through Lesmo 2. Forsell, Filikovsky having a big battle just behind this off camera as well, working their way through Lesmo 2 now. Completely different lines there between the two. And look at the rear view camera. That is a driver who is being pushed down that straight. That's Filikovsky. He's just made the move there on Forsell. He's trying to make the double move into as many corners down the inside in towards Ascari. That's going to be a brave move. We saw it from Sundström in the Aston 1 lap ago, and the Aston this time around there. Filikovsky gets through.
Yeah, through on the inside quite easily, actually, in the end. You do want to get single file by the time you're properly into Ascari, to be honest. curves and whatever around there, it can get a little bit grisly if you're side by side, but on the way out you can certainly see the opportunities here coming in towards the parabolica. A little bit of side-to-side contact, and that was Ulrichsen there initially being, oh dear, and it was the Ferrari just in front of Ulrichsen there who made a big dive down the inside and made a big bit of contact as well. I think it was Frederick Matheson who's now going to be passed, and it was Jock Frisk who was a little bit further behind, getting spun around in the Porsche. A very lively group and a lot of contact happening there.
Certainly, it's only the top 15 that get reversed, but you think these drivers will be fighting for the reverse grid pole the way that they do that. Because, of course, we will get a second race after this one. This one's just a sprint race straight to the end from the qualifying positions. Then we will reverse the top 15 of the result of this. We'll have a slightly longer race, 44 minutes, where we'll also need a pit stop to get to the end, with the fuel tank being half of what it normally is in these machines. And they are fighting so hard because these guys know that their starting position for the next race will be wherever they finish now. So the more positions they can get here will certainly help earlier.
Yeah, certainly will. And this is sort of where the biggest group in the field really is in this field right now. There is quite a group that does actually extend out to their battle for the last spot inside the reverse grid places, headed by Hakan Schott, I think we'd probably say at the moment, in 11th, and all the way down to Sebastian Svensson in 17th. But this is the biggest group in the field. You could argue that it's sort of numbering sort of 12 at the moment. I know there's a gap or two of a second or so in there, but you could say there's about 12 or so in here. It's about a quarter of the field all in this one group at the moment, coming down towards the final turn. And again, side by side, that's Ulrichsen again looking to the inside here into the final turn, but it looks like in the end more of a defensive fact. Matheson going down the inside for the second lap in a row. Less contact made this time, through to 32nd on Robert Carlson.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? As we're getting Marcus Hagman in the 12 machine. He's the black and blue Mustang on that inside line, trying to squeeze his way through. He's made it stick there as we get back into single file formation, as Robert Carlson, I should say, has to sit back as Hagman looks inside. That is covered off aggressively there by the Porsche of Matheson just in front of him. Hagman goes a bit deep there, so that battle is over. Up ahead though, we've got Hillestrom batting side by side. That's really going to slow them down as they work their way up towards Lesmo 1, and that is such a tight battle. Yokushu here, who's got so many instant points to his name. I was having a look in the championship and needs to calm down with that one. Loses a position there for 15th place. So Rosqvist gets past in that Aston Martin, but look at this battle. This is crazy to try and hold on to the reverse grid pole.
Yeah, and you can absolutely maybe looking further down the field, you can't quite understand why they're going so hard at each other, but you can hear definitely side by side again. That was a bit of a squeeze there under the bridge. They'll get away with it there. Who was that squeezing who? I think it was Stu on Mochin squeezing hardest under the bridge there, but they get away with it. And in any case, as I say, you can absolutely understand why they're fighting so hard on this occasion. Is this one of those circuits where they've got a chance to beat Beifeld or Lindoff or both? I'm not entirely convinced, but you haven't got any chance, I don't think, if you're starting 16th or 17th, so you've got to be in that top 15 here and getting towards the front row for race 2.
Yeah, in 44 minutes, Beifeld, he will have the pace to get back through. He's already leading by 4 seconds after just 10 minutes here. As we see Sundström having a battle, Norberg, that is a car going down a position indeed. So this is actually Sundström coming forward. He's actually chasing up to Lindoff, who's not been able to pull away from this mid-pack like he has in previous races. This is Hillestrom continuing his battle, Crook there, and then also Rosqvist trying to go side by side through Curva Grande. Yokushi on the outside, 3 cars battling. It's not really actually wide enough here for 3 cars, so he's got to be careful of looking for the next guy in behind him, trying to come up. I think it's Sebastian Svensson in the background, trying to make it 2 by 2 down in towards the second chicane. Hillestrom trying to hold up the inside. That's going to slow everyone down. This should be a good run for Xu on the exit. Yes, he's going to get Hillestrom. Can he get the Aston? No, he can't quite. So Rosqvist holds on to that one, but the inside line for Xu should work out. And it's the 2 teammates. Svensson decides to not battle his teammate there in Lesmo 1.
Probably better to fall in line for the 2 right-handers rather through there. And just biding his time a little bit at the moment, which is probably sensible through the Curva Grande especially. Good run though coming here for Svensson rather. Very, very close in behind, but not making a move in towards Ascari again. So Svensson just on the outside the top 15 looking. Oscar Motin there as well. Robert Ericsson's not that far away either. He's in that Corvette you can see in the background. Just needs to get the coattails of this slipstream now, and he'll be right involved with the battle for 15th as well.
And this is certainly entertaining racing at Monza. The slipstream keeping everyone in check, where the pace is pretty, pretty even, to be honest, because you can't really pull away. Unless you're just flat out faster like Byfeld at the front, you can't really pull away, as every straight you have a couple of tenths pulling you back in. Svensson gets the run, gets the slipstream as well. And look, Hillestrøm's going to be absolutely gone here as they work their way down this front stretch, as the two teammates should be battling each other nicely coming down in towards the first corner. Yeah, that is not so much of a battle. Hillestrøm goes back another place. Svensson gets up there for the TNR team, working their way up now towards Curva Grande, and he's trying to set his sights on Yokshu.
Yep, the driver currently in 14th place, just add that little bit of insurance there to the top 15. Yes, of course, every position that you gain inside the top 15 is effectively a position worse off for the start of the next race, but it is also worth a point as well, so probably is worth coming through. And there's a mistake in the background. Motin drops down dramatically. Hillestrøm slows down too. Not sure whether there was contact between them, but that's the battle for 15th going straight out the way of these guys now. Svensson in 15th has got no pressure behind him anymore.
Yeah, that's the all-important couple of seconds gap that we've seen at other races in between 15th and 16th place. It's very difficult to overcome that on pure pace. At this level, when you're in the mid-pack, everyone is so closely matched. Being simply faster than someone by a couple of seconds is going to be very, very difficult, and that's also out of the slipstream range. So that's a big shame. This is Motin, the 94 machine they'll be on board with, but he is not able to catch back up. There's always a big slide in the background there with the orange machine. I guess that would be Pennings. Yes, it is. Everton, we go 3 wide actually. Grand tries to come the inside of Everton and Pennings down in towards the final corner. Grand this is in the grey and red machine. Is he going to be able to get up the inside as well? That could be a 2-position move if he does so. Yes, Pennings is going to go wide, and Grand is going to gain that 2 places, but the slipstream will come back now to the others behind him.
Yeah, and the double slipstream, I'd imagine Everton's got a decent chance here of going through. He's been given the inside. Suspect I know where the others want him to go here, considering the way they were positioning themselves, pinned to the right or pinned to the left-hand side of the road, but Everton's not interested in coming through at the moment. He stays behind us. Oh no, contact behind! Big contact behind, as one of the Mercedes there finds the wall very hard after contact in the braking zone. Thankfully, in the battle we were watching, they stayed off one another throughout the whole thing, but unfortunately in the background, everybody nearly wiped out by that Mercedes that was just touched under braking there at the most vulnerable point, and it's put that Mercedes straight in the wall.
Yeah, that's Morten Bredesen in the 22 machine. And he also just got some contact there in the braking zone. Was this his fault? Oh, I mean, he was squeezing, but the 357 there was also moving around a little bit, trying to get his space for the braking zone. That's going to be a difficult one, I think, for the stewards to call, because they're both sort of moving towards each other a little bit as Bredesen was squeezing him towards the grass. So that's certainly going to be not my decision, and I do not want to be a steward after this race, as we're seeing Oberg here. One of the Sim Race Sweden cars rejoining. I don't actually... That was actually the 301 machine there. You got some contact on the background. That's 301 machine of Svensson, who's dropped out of contention in the top 15, and then came back on. I think Oberg just got a bit wide.
Yeah, I think so. I think he didn't quite account for the fact that he wasn't on the racing line there at Lesmo 1, which is very important to be on, really. And that's just meant the rear snapping away from that Porsche, spinning around into the gravel, unfortunately, through that middle sector. And now down to the bottom end of the top 30, by the way. Homer, for whatever reason, has just struggled here in this first race of the day. 15 minutes old now, and he's only really been going backwards. This will be 2 places lost from where he qualified if Strauberg can outbrake him, and he can. So De Homer down to 6th, and a puzzling one really for someone who started off so well. Has not shown the outright speed required to stay there ever since.
Yeah, it's obviously up into third place. I was mentioning at the time, third on the road, third in the championship, now down to sixth, and he's only 3 positions ahead of Linus Broström as it stands. Of course, still gaining points on his championship rival, but that is certainly a thing to look out for, because then he'll start behind him, of course. In the next race, Holmer gets close once again. The 2 AMGs coming towards the Ascari, not quite enough to really go for the move at that point. They do have a gap, so there's 18 points between Holmer and Broström for third and fourth, and then there's another 12 back to Yokshu, who of course is not quite in this battle either. And then the next guy is actually Jonas Gunnarsson, who we haven't really mentioned so much today. He's not quite in contention for the top positions as it stands. So definitely a good opportunity here, and he is losing out on a few points.
Absolutely. And with every point, apart from first and second, every gap being 1 point, it's very, very important indeed. Here comes Holmer again on Strauberg, who, well, was defending and then sort of faded back to the racing line again before that braking zone there, but everything within the rules. I think there may only be a couple of laps to go here. They're going to be quite close to see how many laps that Holmer actually gets at this, but it's not been the sort of slam dunk overtakes every time that sometimes you see at Monza. There is still a little bit of driver skill involved, although the slipstream does help you on a decent amount as well.
You have to be quite brave, because you have to send it down the inside. So even if you get close, you've got to be brave enough to brake later. And I guess you do have the ABS in these cars, but still, you have to just smash that pedal and try and go as late and as hard as you can. If you go too hard, get into the ABS, then you'll actually have a longer braking zone. So it's very crucial to have that feel of the brakes and have the setting on the ABS correct, so that you can use that to your advantage. But as obviously the fact that you get the slipstream, you actually go faster as well. So you have to stop in less distance by going faster. So it's a very tough, tough situation. But sometimes it is a little bit slam dunk if you have so much overspeed you can sail past. But what we're seeing, Ewan, is actually always quite a common theme with Monza in a lot of cars nowadays. Is even though you have all of these long straights, as Wallington gets a black flag, even though you have all these long straights, it's not a simple track to overtake on, to be honest, because everyone's going fast, everyone's got less wing on.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. And that does make things a little bit more tricky than maybe they'd otherwise appear, but let's not make any mistake. There is still significant help, assistance from the slipstream here, and the groups stay closer together as a result, because this one for 15th has just come back again. That was very close. I didn't think Oscar Motin had an Aston Martin's width on the outside there, but he did, and he's gone all the way around the outside of Robert Ericsson, and this is all trying to chase down Hilleström, and he's done it. Well, that is surprisingly easy for him. He made it look easy anyway. And he gets up into 16th place. Now he's in prime position to take that pole position away for race number 2, away from Hilleström. It will be properly fought over after the splitting apart of the last few laps.
Yeah, Ericsson, I mean, he left in the minimum amount of space. I guess he just wasn't thinking that he was going to go for that. As we're going back to Yokshu, on the inside, this will be of Hagenschott. This is 13th position. They are well ahead of Hilleström for P15, so should be good to be on the first, second row of the reverse grid. But Yokshu trying to still make some moves a bit later on in this race. In the background, though, Hilleström is going to have a big fight with Motin and Ericsson. That battle that we were just looking out for. Here's Motin down the inside. Big send. This could be for a reverse grid pole if he could get through, and he certainly does. We've got meatball for Lucas Olsson, but these guys continue on racing. And Hilleström there is dropped out of position. So what a double move there in one lap from Motin, and gets him reverse grid pole as it stands with 30 seconds remaining.
Well, we'll see how long it's going to last here, because as you say, Bifo is indeed going to get us on to another lap here. That goes to the outside again, Hilleström. Oh, it's contact as well, side by side, and they're going to go around. Hilleström goes around to the inside, and that is Oscar Motin getting through into 15th place, muscling his way through as well. I don't think he did anything wrong there, to be honest. I think Hilleström just lost it there in the side-to-side contact with the Aston Martin. You've got to keep such a narrow, tight line there when you're going for Ascari with somebody else like that, and he wasn't able to quite do it.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most difficult corners in the world to go side by side. That middle apex of Ascari is so difficult to sort of judge the space that you're supposed to give your rival. And they come on to start their final lap. Let's see this though from the outside. He leaves plenty of space there. Of course, they squeeze and there's a bit of contact, and then they just sort of ricochet a little bit. I think that's very, very unlucky for Hillestrom. I don't think either is directly at fault in terms of really being too aggressive on that one. It probably will just go down as a racing incident, and Hillestrom trying a difficult move there around the outside. But what hasn't been so difficult, Ewan, is Byfeld leading out front. We haven't spoken to him, but he's got a 5-second lead.
No, indeed. He's been surprising, actually, in the way that he's been able to get away so quickly at the beginning. You'd have thought with what happened 2 weeks ago that Lindhoff needed to stay close this week and try and get a victory. And race one might be the better chance to do it because he's got control over where Byfeld is almost at all times there at the front of the field in a battle with him. But immediately, pretty much, that slipstream gap opened up. And Byfeld has been able to cruise it on to another victory here. The momentum is definitely getting with him this season.
And this is going to be for 3 in a row. He won both races at Laguna Seca a couple of weeks ago, and now he's won the sprint race here. The Feather Online Gaming race at Monza is going to be his in the sprint race from pole to victory, and it's going to be Lindhoff in second place. That's some strong points in behind, but another 5 points lost, plus a couple of points for pole position as well. He's certainly on the back foot as we go to the midpoint of the season. Sundström will round out the podium, and for P15, it looks like it's going to be Oscar Motin just about holding on to that one by a few tenths of a second, but in behind for the final few positions. These will be their starting places for the feature race, and then didn't do anything out of the final corner. He's got Grant in front of him, and then Jonas Gunnarsson, he's P17 after being quite high up in the standings, but no, not enough to make a change to the line. So they stay as they are as they come across. Dan Holm is going to be 6th place, 3rd place in the championship. Linus Broström is going to be 9th as well. So solid top 10 finishes for those drivers, as we're seeing some consistency start to come in for these drivers who really want to get a good finish in the championship this season. The race is not done though, with 40 odd cars starting. We do have only 38 out there on the track, 37 of them on the lead lap. Is Nordgren up towards the line for Feather Online Gaming. Thanks to them, of course, for sponsoring this race today. Not enough either to make a move out of the final corner, but certainly that is a tough track, Ewan, I have to say, to go racing in such a competitive championship.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, go ahead.
That was a great point. After 12 laps of action, Marcus Byfeld winning from Lindhoff, Sundström, Norberg and Strahlberg, your top 5. Holmer, Giros, Backman, Broström, Tia, your top 10, with Byfeld also getting the fastest lap point as well. So he's got maximum points so far tonight. Crook, Rosefist, Shu, Schott and Motin, they'll be your final of the top 15 reverse, with Ericsson, Gunnarsson, Gran, Everden and Svensson in the end dropping down to P20. Hillestrom, he ends up P21. Forsberg, Pennings, Hagman, Stiller, Frisk, Matheson, Reistad, Carlson, and Broström, the top 30. Then we have Nordgren, Forsell, Dahlström, Ullman, Wallingson, Pfeffer, and Oberg. Your fun drives on the lead lap with Svensson, Knell, Bredesen at the end there, having that big crash down into turn 1. Then Filikovsky, Oriksson, Olsen, Magnussen, and Alterwill. Drivers, they're not really getting too many laps into this race. But of course, we have the feature race coming up. We might have a little bit of drizzle, a little bit of rain coming your way. So as the drivers prepare themselves for that, we'll get a few messages from our partners. Welcome back to Monza, where the clouds are rolling in and we might get a little bit of some wet action here at Monza. It's the Feather Online Gaming race as we go to Monza for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's Road Course Series for 2026. And the star driver, Marcus Byfeld, delivering as ever as he works his way to the top of the standings. It's race 7 and 8 of the season, and now Lindhoff has only won 2 of the opening 7 races. So we thought he was there, we thought he was going for this championship, but now it's 2 versus 5 wins for Marcus Byfeld, and the slope is starting to slide away from the Simrace Sweden driver. Of course, Ewan, he's still got second place, so it's not like it was a bad result, but the tide is certainly turning in the favour of Marcus Byfeld.
It is. I mentioned at the start of this race, start of these 2 races, really, that Lindhoff had to win one of these, and that maybe even on this occasion, normally it's race 2, obviously, where you look at and think he might be able to win this, because he obviously starts in front of Byfeld, if indeed Byfeld goes on to win the first race. But actually, the first race might have been a better chance here, because they're going to get through the field here quite nicely at Monza, because you can overtake quite easily. And there's a pit stop as well, so Byfeld can use that to his advantage to try and get past as well. So I actually think race 1 might have been a better chance, but he clearly didn't have the speed. He's now got to do it in race number 2, and I think he really does have to do it 2 rounds in a row where Byfeld does the double, and this season will start to slip away from Henrik Lindhoff.
What do you do in this situation, though? It's clearly a bit wet out on the track. We know we have to do a pit stop anyway because of fuel, so it's going to be a 44-minute race. Fuel will last about 30 minutes or so on green flag conditions. If you're in wet conditions, the fuel will last even longer, but I'm pretty sure they're still going to need to do a pit stop. I don't think they'll be able to stretch it out that long, even if it's just 5 minutes, but we will need a pit stop. Do you commit to wet tyres at some point? Oh, we go for a spin here. Do you commit to wet tyres? Or do you go on the dries, but then if you get it completely wrong and you end up having to do a 2 pit stop race, you're going to lose a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see it all the time about the amount of drivers in this series that sort of prevents the leaders from really doing anything too extravagant, to be honest, as far as normal strategy is concerned, sort of dry race strategy, if you like. But is that going to be upturned completely by any weather here? That's the thing that is just not knowable at this stage, and it probably means, to be honest, we'll see if these weather conditions change from the walk session to the race here, but in a moment. But if it stays as it is, the threat of rain or whatever not quite going away, they will definitely be waiting for as long as possible, really, before they decide to come into pit lane and make their stops. But let's see.
So let's remind you of the grid. So this is the top 15 reverse from the result of that first race. So Moten get the reverse grid pole with his teammate alongside of Håkan Schott. Then it's Shu and Rosqvist on the second row with Crook and Kenneth Tier on the third. It's going to be Broström, Backman, Giros, Holmer, Stralberg and Norberg inside the front 6 rows of the grid. Then it's Sundström, Lindhoff and Byfeld, your final of the top 15 reverse. Then all the drivers following in will be in the same position as they finished in that sprint race. So we'll just let them roll through as you work through all of the drivers there. The drivers now a little bit further back, of course, they can't really move forward in terms of getting a reverse grid position, but they are still getting points. And even though the races are completely different lengths, the grids are set from completely different strategies, one in qualifying, one in reverse, the points are the same. You have 50 points for a win, 45 for second place, and then going down 1 point, etc., 44, 43 to the end of the field. So they're all fighting for the same points back there.
Yeah. That's why it feels like, to be honest, the top 2 are completely disconnected from the rest of the field, really. Like they're in a different category, because they're the ones fighting over that sort of big difference between first and second. Everybody else is just 1 point all the way down. And you could argue, I think Dan Holmer might argue at the end of this, that he's leading the other championship at the moment behind the others, because he's third. He is a good 40-odd points behind both of the other 2, and it will be, I'd imagine, more than 50 to both of them at the end of today. But he is in third coming into today, leading the others. But anyway, yeah, it's a big field again. It's only 1 point per position, but because the field's so big, you can gain a lot of points on one race, and all it takes is a bad race. That could definitely come here at Monza with the opening laps that we get here.
So a couple of drivers in pit lane, Stiller, Hagman, Alterwill as well. Are they trying to start from pit lane and get as late a decision as possible on the tyres? Let's find out though. There's rain in the air and the precipitation percentage is increasing. The chance of rain is increasing as the race goes on. This could be a whole load of fun. 44 minutes, a pit stop at least coming your way as we have cloudy skies here at Monza for the further online gaming race for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's Road Course Series. Got the Sim Race Sweden duo on the front row. Got Motin in the Aston Martin, Hockenschott in the AMG as we're getting underway. Here's already a big defensive move to the outside of the track, actually to give the slipstream to his teammate as teammates work their way down into the first corner. It's going to be Motin leading the way in towards the first braking zone. It's still damp and slippery out there from that warm-up session. The cars go through side by side for the first couple of rows. Is there going to be any big moves in the background? Because surely someone's, we're already spinning 3-4 cars, making some contact. There's a 45 car go around. There's some other cars as well. I think Jochen Svensson for the second race in a row, as that was a 45 of Oberg, who was off at turn 1.
Byfeld hasn't gone anywhere off the start here, but Henrik Lindhoff has made up some good places there in the first 15. So the leaders have really gotten away with that. No trouble in the first 15, despite the fact that it was damp on the way towards turn 1, and they were using pretty much all the road to accommodate one another. In the end, the wet patches to the side of the racetrack actually didn't make any much of a difference, and it's pretty much a normal start, although now it might start to. Out of Lesmo 1, the water is particularly pooling up there, and that was Rosquist who went wide into the AstroTurf and loses it out on 4th to Christopher Crook.
It's quite dramatic, isn't it, when you go through that puddle? Oh no, a huge spin there for Olsen. Lucas Olsen, he had a disastrous first race. Now he's lost the bumper and the rear wing there on his Ferrari this time around. That is really not ideal, but it's quite a big spin again in the middle of a scar. Is that Bachmann going around the 119 machine? That was a big hit into the wall, so he's going to have some damage on the front end of that.
Yeah, it was Bachmann, and everybody promoted a place therefore as well. Lindhoff already to 9th. What a great start from him as Norberg has a look on Holmer coming down to the final corner there. He won't be able to get anywhere. Henrik Lindhoff watches on just in behind, looking to gain places as well. So Holmer could help him out here by getting him 2 positions and up into 7th at the end of the opening lap. That will be a very, very good start, considering that Byfeld is only up to 13th, and one of those positions was handed to him. That's only one legitimate overtake made on this opening lap.
I guess he knows it's a long race and he has the opportunity to get these moves one by one, but what we saw in that first race was with the field spread, especially in the top 5 or so, that could be quite difficult, but I'm sure he's got the speed later on. Here's Robert Eriksson. We saw him just missing out on that reverse grip pole. Now he's fighting around here in P15 once again for the second race in a row. That's Sundström ahead, and then it was actually Byfeld, the car ahead of that. So 33 of Gunnarsson is right up behind him. Auto got a black flag after having an issue at the start there already. He's have to go down pit road once more.
Side by side all the way down here into this leading group, you can effectively call it, for the opening laps here. A little bit wide just off in front there, and Sundström gets an extra place. So Byfeld and Sundström both going through there, and Christopher Kiros on this opening lap, but was Robert Eriksson involved there with Jonas Gunnarsson, Sebastian Svensson, and there's Kalle Bollingström, who's gone around through the second chicane as well. So much happening up and down the field. Rosquist getting in front of Crook as well, so they reverse their positions again after reversing them on the opening lap as well.
Well, there's Wallingston. That's how he lost it. Coming through the second chicane there, has to wait for so many cars to come through. So things Ulrichsen as well, just having a little bit. There's still Olsen trying to get back. Of course, he's got no rear wing, so he's really going to be struggling with the aero balance on that car. And to be honest, he should just tow back to the pit lane, surely, at this point. I know in terms of time it may take a bit longer, but certainly much safer for him and everyone else. Here's Lindhoff on the outside. Norberg squeezing him as Lindhoff is going to get the teammate slipstream down this front stretch. That is Dan Holmer, and that is going to be an easy move there for the Mustang to get through, and that should be basically 2 positions secured, because you would expect Lindhoff here to go to the inside and get past his teammate, which will be for P7, with Byfeld actually making 2 places on this lap as well. That could be quite important moves for him. There's Yok Shu going for second place. Motin's going up the track by almost 2 seconds now, but Shu up into second.
Yeah, indeed. But Oscar Motin, I think, is the winner out of this. Absolutely. He is nearly 2 seconds in front of the rest, and he's creating a real buffer over those who matter here. 4 seconds back to Lindhoff, even more than 6 seconds to Byfeld here, and multiple cars between them without the pit strategy as well to reach for here. So, yeah, this is not the dream start for Lindhoff by any means just yet, but he is still miles in front of Byfeld, which is good news for him. As I say, I think this is probably better news for Oscar Motin in the opening stages of this race, to be honest, but we'll see. This race is going to be a bit slower than the first one, not least because the second race always is, but the dampness on the racetrack is making the sides of the track very dangerous in some places. Byfeld just skipping past Linus Brostrom there, getting into the top 10, because Brostrom himself went wide into the AstroTurf, which is very good at absorbing the water, certainly better than the tarmac, and it is still seemingly there in large quantities.
Yes, it's definitely not dry out there, so therefore I guess that everyone's on the on the dry tyres, and also looking at the lap times. But if it rains later, then they should basically then come in for the wet tyres at that point when they make their pit stop that they'll have to make anyway. But generally they want to go as long as possible before making the stop, make the stop as short as possible, but they might be forced in a bit early. We'll have to see how it goes. There's still dampness out there on the track, but nothing too crazy just yet. We're looking at Lindhoff as he's working his way forward. Byfeld has got into the top 10 on this lap, so Lindhoff still needs to keep working his way forward. There's some big battles up ahead, though. That's Crook weaving around a bit, trying to attack, trying to defend at the same point. Rosequist is the car just behind him, and then Pocket Shot from the front row, still up there in third.
Yeah, indeed. Still going okay. So fighting pretty hard to stay in towards the back end of the top 15 in the opening race. Ended up in 14th place at the end of race number 1. Did Shot. It's now in this big group at the front again. This is further down. This is what was happening in the first race is happening again. Much of the same names congregating around the back end of the top 30 here. And when you know that you're already back here, your result is not likely to be a brilliant one anyway. As well, fight as hard as possible for these positions. You've got to fight your way through to try and make some progress. And here comes Joachim Ulrichsen on the outside line there. Give some space on the left-hand side. Seal the deal through the second part and up to 31st place. But yeah, it's so far disconnected from the guys at the front of the field. I mean, they're already nearly half a minute away from the leader.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. Quarter of a lap around here. Byfeld got Holmer for 9th position, by the way. So there goes. I mean, to be honest, we saw Lindhoff get past Holman not so long ago, and now Lindhoff is in 6th, Holman's in 10th. Byfeld has got past him as well. Crook to the inside. That's going to be so tight between them, and not enough. So Rosequist there in 3rd place as Crook tries to chase him down after losing that position. Lindhoff now needs to try and get his fellow Mustang on this straight. Byfeld is coming in behind. He needs to try and get to the front of this field. It's not been as easy potentially as we've seen at some other tracks. So there we are, still less than 10 minutes into this race. Side by side the Mustangs go. Lindhoff is blocked off a little bit by Rosequist side by side through the second apex, and now he should have the inside line there. Get the slipstream from his teammate up ahead. May just be enough for him to get pace.
And yeah, top 5 now then for Lindhoff, but based on what we've seen from Crook so far, I'm not sure how much resistance he'll be able to put up to those behind either, but let's see when he's on the defensive again in a second. Rosequist here goes down the inside of Shot, who's got a decision to make now, and he lets Rosequist through and tries to coordinate. Lindhoff just getting the undercut on him as well, and that was quite nicely done in the end. That could have gone very wrong, but actually Shot got himself nicely positioned there to make sure that Lindhoff got through. Now he's not going to make it anywhere near as easy for the likes of Christopher Crook, and certainly not Byfeld, who himself goes down the inside of Gabriel Norberg in the stack-up and gets up to 8th place.
Yeah, Byfeld's taking this very methodically, one by one, going there, not trying to make anything too crazy. Whereas Lindhoff, he's having a little bit of a harder time, it seems. Yeah, to some degree, but let's see how he's able to get through. We're only 4.5 seconds off the lead, by the way, which is not too bad at all, to be honest. I was expecting the gap to be a bit bigger, but Motin's not pulled away as much as we said. So here is Shot and Crook going side by side. Shot going backwards now. Oh, big crash in the background. Huge shunt on the exit of Ascari there. That is not ideal. The 303 machine Svensson, we've seen him in the wall a couple of times today, but that was another. I'm surprised he's still going after that.
Yeah, that was a big hit based on, maybe it was the angle we saw, to be fair, because he did appear into shot very quickly and disappear out of it into the wall. It was on the water on the inside. No, it was quite a big hit, actually, but only on one corner, so he'll get away with that, but I'm afraid it will be pretty big damage. And affecting his straight line speed, which is the last thing you need here. As Byfeld, meantime, has been making progress. He's got past Kenneth Thierry, who was being shuffled back, and that was very nicely done on Huck and Shot, who would have been hoping to put more resistance to that. But Byfeld has made very efficient progress on that lap, getting past Huck and Shot. I think Norberg as well, very early in the lap. And Kenneth Thierry now as well, but here comes Shot. He's got to try and put the pressure onto Byfeld here in aid of his teammate, Henrik Lindhoff, who is already quite a long way up in front, but Byfeld was able to shake off that challenge, and he is in 6th place.
Yeah, as much as you want to help your teammate, you also don't want to make a mockery of you or your team, so got to be careful. And Byfeld's already pulled away, to be honest, after just a couple of corners with the speed that he's got. So Shot, now look at the train of cars, by the way. This could be one by one. If any of these drivers start struggling, no, another driver's going to pass and another then another. You've got to keep that momentum going. If you start getting on the back foot, drivers will come past you like a freight train. And we only now have even one position, no, even that 0 positions between Lindhoff and Byfeld as it stands. As Byfeld makes another move, gets past Crook. That is easily done. Waiting for his time. He knows there's not a rush in these first few laps of the race. Now he's right behind his championship rival.
Yeah, indeed. There is that 1.5 seconds or so, but that exactly puts the pressure onto Lindhoff. He knows the scenario with Byfeld being relatively close behind now, and he knows there's no cars between them, and he knows, to be fair for his part, that Shu and Rosquist are not going to be easy to pass either, and there's a lap car coming out there. So yeah, this is an important moment of the race for Lindhoff, and it's high pressure as well, as Gabriel Norberg gets close to Huck and Shot here. These are teammates here fighting for their own safety now, and this is dangerous. A Ferrari on the inside there, trying to let people through. That's not the way to do it. I understand he wants to let them all through in one go, but you can't come to a stop on the apex of a turn like that. And finally, he's going to get going again now, but it's Adam Altawil, who's already 4 laps down, so I guess he figures there's no harm in me stopping here for 20 seconds, but there certainly would have been if someone ran into the back of him.
That, as much as no crash happened, that was so dangerous. Do not do that. He might as well have just gone over the chicane, just driven through, taking the off track, to be honest. As Norberg there, sending it down the inside of Crook, up into 6th place for car number 6. Crook's still there on the outside, though, gets the run. Bit of contact between the two, and he regains the position. Yep,
indeed. And this is what you'd expect from Norberg, really. Huck and Shot, unfortunately, you'd expect him to also be dropping down the field, but Christopher Crook is putting up a good fight at the moment in 6th place as well in that Mustang. Daniel Holmer in here as well, Sundström. It's a big group now, going all the way down to Robert Eriksson in 16th place, so very, very large group. The championship leader's not a part of it yet either. And look at that, yeah, this is going to keep us busy for quite some time, it looks like.
It certainly does. So these guys will now be watching the gaps ahead. So we now have about 3 seconds ahead of Crook. I guess they don't really think they can chase them down, but if they want to have any chance of even doing something in the pit, the pit lane, where maybe, up to 5 seconds, you could actually make a jump in the pit lane. If it gets more than that ahead, that could be difficult. Side by side for 2nd place. Shu on the outside. We've got Rosquist on the inside. They've now got Lindhoff all over the back of them. Side by side, we still remain on the exit. And Lindhoff is going to be loving this one as the pair swap around. Rosquist gets back to 2nd place. Shu down into 3rd. And he's actually, it's rare, Shu's going to have to go for this. He's going to have to try something up the inside if he wants to do this. This is in defense of Lindhoff, more so than the attack of Rosquist. He slides back in between. Perfectly timed to hold on.
That was perfectly timed there. And that's exactly what it was about. And he made that very clear, Shu, by pulling back to the racing line the way they did. But Lindhoff's going to get there anyway. He knows the importance of this. He monsters himself down the inside. And Shu is very helpful to Lindhoff there, because he got straight back to the racing line. He very easily could have gone wide through Lesmo. Oh, and Lindhoff's gone. And there's a stack up. Contact. Lindhoff's in the wall hard. And this is a championship-defining moment. Byfeld scampers off up the road into 3rd. Lindhoff's in big, big trouble.
The only good thing for him potentially might be some drop rounds saving him, but you don't want to take them early on in the season. And this race that was already on the back foot for Lindhoff after missing out on every point so far. He missed out on pole, missed out on fastest lap, missed out on the race win in the first race. Now sends it into the fence and will definitely be losing a whole heap of points from Byfeld, who's now into third place with still about half an hour to go. Byfeld's probably going to win this one, and that could be very, very big, the gap between them at the end of this race. Let's see, he's all on his own. He's already lost it after the apex curb. His car's already unsettled at that point. We've seen a lot of people struggling, wiggling, and he's just pushing. Oh, there's a big snap there, and then he can't save it. And he's pushing, he's doing what he has to do. Byfeld's putting the pressure on, and Lindhoff came a cropper to that one.
I mean, it's got to go down to an unforced error, hasn't it, for Lindhoff, really? I know the water isn't helping the situation there, but he's not really under any pressure from Shu. His position had been gained there. And I'm afraid he's just made an error at a critical moment. Not that that sort of a spin would have been very ideal at any moment, but certainly at that moment it's provided the high drama. And yes, Byfeld might have a bit of damage on board now as a result, but this is going to be a bad result now for Lindhoff. I think the races 2 weeks ago were where the momentum properly started to shift, because I actually thought Lindhoff in the first couple of rounds was shifting the momentum towards himself after a great couple of races at the Nürburgring and VIR, but actually that has started to switch in the last couple of weeks. And this is the week in which it's properly sort of been confirmed, if you like. There's still 4 rounds to go, 8 races to go after this one. We reach the halfway stage in 28 minutes time of this season. But it is very much in Byfeld's hands now. After a good initial bit of resistance from Lindhoff, that is starting to slip.
Yeah, there are, as I mentioned, I believe 2 drop rounds, so that could help him, but therefore he needs to make sure he's winning in the other races, which he struggled with last time out in Laguna Seca, as well as these battles are continuing. We've got Schott, we've got Stralberg, got Kenneth Tia, and the 49 just behind this as well. As there's also Gunnarsson. We haven't mentioned him as much as I was hoping today. He's been outside of the top 10 the whole time, not really worked his way forward too much, but he's now behind Giros, getting the run. Is there any sort of move? It's the same car. No, it's not. It's Porsche on Mustangs who work away. We've got the BMW of Broström up ahead. As we're 3 wide for a moment, Giros down the inside. That'll be the outside for turn 2, but Broström's going to squeeze him. Surely no, Broström leaves him plenty of space. And we might be able to get Gunnarsson as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be stuck on the outside through the Curva Grande. The advantage in the rain, or the damp circuit, is that water has pulled up on the inside there quite well. So you can, within the rules, just try and squeeze them down there and help yourself on the outside there. As looking on the inside goes Gunnarsson. Broström gives quite a lot of room there and sticks himself up on the inside. That wasn't a very good run, though. And here comes Ericsson as well as Gunnarsson on the outside. That was quite nicely done, though, from Broström again on the way into Lesmo 1. Just made sure that only the Porsche was going to get through there and the Corvette wasn't going to follow through in this pretty large group.
Yeah, there's a big gap already there for Crook as he worked his way through that after the sort of slowing down of the fact of going side by side through the chicane. So Crook will be loving that one. Looking in his mirrors, where is Lindhoff after this? He's behind these guys. Yeah, he's 18th place, so he's sort of just off the back of there. There he is. Oh, he's got no back end at all, but he is continuing on. So I think he should be okay. There's no fast repair, so he's going to have to really wait until the pit stop. The only good news is we are in fuel range to get to the end if he does need an early pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends what the damage is like, how much it's holding these guys back at the moment. I think Byfeld, by the way, has got some damage on that car that's holding him back at the moment. He's been sort of 3 to 5 tenths away from his best lap every lap since his bit of contact, although, to be fair, he hasn't had any slipstream either, so that might be playing a role. But yeah, there'll be a few looking forward to the pit stop here just for a little bit of damage repair. But if you are stopping to repair any damage, you are losing time to those around. So Linus Broström comes in. He maybe is going to kick this off now. Has he been the first, because the sun's just come out actually, has he been the first to say, well, doesn't look like this is going to rain at all now for the remainder of this race. It could come on very quickly, but you don't see that too often at Monza, to be honest. He's, I think, taking the risk that this is not going to rain and he's going to fuel early.
Yes, it's about a 60% chance, give or take, throughout the whole race. So if the rain doesn't come now, then I guess I don't know if it's going to change too much from them, but we'll have to see. Unfortunately, I'm not able to quite see the radar from where we are, as that could be a strategic thing to get out of a big train battle that's losing him time as well. As Wallingston, we saw him in the fence at one point, he's now in P32.
Yeah, indeed. Long way down, unfortunately, in this field. Still 39 running, although a couple further down. Alta Will and Olsen still going very far down the field. Stiller comes into this second chicane again. As we've said for the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, not his greatest season coming from the back of the field, unfortunately. Normally has been very good at it, but just hasn't had very good luck this season. 33rd coming into tonight with the points. Hadn't even got to 100 yet. For reference, the leader's nearly on 300. And that's continuing, it looks like, his poor luck through this part of the season.
Marcus Byfeld to the inside. This is going to be second place from your pole drive, Oscar Motin. The rain was happening there. There definitely was some rain out there, so maybe getting a bit sunny, but it's not completely dry. So this is how we got into this situation. Here's Motin in towards the Curve Alboreto. Big wiggle there as the rain came down, and he just misjudged, I guess, the speed into that corner. That allowed Rosefist to go past, and that is why Byfeld got the run, excuse me, as well, as Rosefist there leads the way in the 211 machine.
Oh, it is raining. There's the rain. So, I said earlier, Linus Broström had come in because the sun had just come out, and I thought, well, that'll be that then. There's no rain. And seconds later, it clouds over very quickly, and it comes on very quickly as well, this rain. So now this race completely changes. How do they deal with... I mean, it's so sunny in places. This is weird. What? But anyway, the rain is properly falling here, and it's going to require wet tyres before too long. But, as I always say in iRacing, you can go further than you are expecting on occasion in the rain. Now, the fact that it's already wet in places might mean that is a less of a thing. However, everyone's going to have to be very, very wary here as to when they make their pit stop and try and time this right with a tyre change.
What tyres is Linus Broström on, though? Because if he took wets, that's a bold move to the end.
He's on dries.
Oh, that... okay, in that case, that might not be the best decision. But I guess you have to do what you have to do. Interesting that it's so sunny, but now the rain is coming. I mean, that is, it is possible, of course, but just an interesting one that there's obviously just a bit of cloud over the track that is raining. It's not full rain everywhere. There's a lot of sun that will dry it up, but the rain is certainly not helping these drivers at this moment in time. As we get to halfway in the race, 22 minutes to go. Drivers still trying to work their position in this race to something that could help them a little bit later on. Strahlberg down the inside. Hockenschott is going to be for 9th position if he can get through, and that's a nice easy one there as the 26 gets past the 101.
Yeah, indeed. Strahlberg continuing on his way. Unfortunately, Schott continuing on his way backwards, which is a shame, but as I said earlier, expected. He did finish 14th in the opening race, and so holding on to a top 10 would be, I think, remarked as a good achievement, and probably rightfully so as well. No spray for these guys yet, so these are conditions where the dries will be fine with. Byfeld, in the meantime, has caught up to Rosquist. I think Byfeld has gone into this with still complete conviction, even despite the little bit of water that you can see, and maybe others toning it back slightly. Oliver Rosquist is under a lot of pressure now for that race lead, although it's taken Byfeld more than half the race to get there this time.
Yes, certainly has. Rosefist is going to really struggle to win this race, but he's looking good for a podium in that 211 machine, and that is really, to be honest, what he's going to be going for. And he's having such an improvement to his season. So many points will be gained from this point. Let's see if he can finish the job. Yokushu goes down the inside of Oscar Motin as well. So the 94, who was leading just a couple of laps ago, is now down into 4th position. We're almost 3 wide for a moment, coming down towards the final corner a bit further back, as we're going to see Schott try and hold it on the outside. That's going to be so close there with Kenneth Tier, the 49 Aston Martin up the inside. And also Christopher Crook trying to work their way through, as there is Byfeld going to the race lead. It's taken him just over half distance, and he's worked his way back to the front from P15 on the grid.
Yeah, to be honest, that looked like a normal switch, really. Looked like Rosquist let him have that one because he wants to finish on the podium by the end of the day. And if he fights really hard, then a big group from second all the way down, or third rather, all the way down to 8th place might well very much catch up. Look how sunny it is in places. This is weird, these conditions, but the rain is still falling rather lightly, it must be said, because it hasn't made any impression on the road yet, but it is raining. And you suspect that it might not come to an end, indeed, now that it has begun. Nowhere near sort of definite rain in this race. I think the peak is at sort of 50% or so towards the end of this race, but it only increases up until the end of the race, as far as I can see, and that means that it could well be, let's say, raining for the remainder.
Some drivers out there are doing their fastest laps of the race, by the way. So on the current laps, so it's not affecting their speed compared to the start of the race. Of course, the fuel load is getting lighter, but the tyres are getting worn, and there's supposedly more wet dampness out there on the track, so that's a very interesting one. We'll have to obviously see how that one goes. And I'm not sure if you mentioned this, Ewan, before, but Rosefist, he's 24th in the standings, currently up there in second place, half a second of Byfeld. That is a great job in such difficult conditions out there, holding on very nicely indeed, as we are well within the final 20 minutes of racing here tonight. And now the pit stops come for a lot of drivers, so I guess this is at the point where it makes sense because of the fuel number anyway, so that's why everyone's coming in. But Is this fuel numbers, or is this because everyone wants the wet tyres? And if it's just fuel numbers, do you stay on the dries? Because the lap times look good right now.
Yeah, the lap times are absolutely fine. Byfeld was 2 tenths away from his best lap of the race so far. There are some guys on the wets further down. Michael Pennings, Thomas Kinnell and Johan Oberg not setting the world on fire at the moment, as far as I can see with these sector times. I know they'd be slower anyway because they are further down the back, but I mean, Penning's first sector indeed, was over 2 seconds slower. There's barely any corners in the sectors on this racetrack. He's lost 2 seconds in them, so that is a big disaster. Obviously, the wet tyres are actually worse in a straight line, and that's a big thing at Monza, so that, watch out for that when you're doing your calculations, because that makes it all weird. But anyway, that's we'll leave that for later. Of the leaders, only Yok Shu has gone for the wet, and I think he's about to be absolutely eaten alive.
I agree on that one. Oh, there's a shot maybe.
Oh, there he is.
Having a big dive as there's Linus Broström to the outside. This is going to be a very interesting time to see the drivers who stay out. They're, of course, going to go to the end. And it's going to get to a point where even if it gets within the final probably 15 minutes of the race, unless it absolutely chucks down, they may not even have enough time to gain it back unless we literally see the dryers drop off by 5+ seconds a lap. But if it's just going to be a couple seconds here and there because it's a bit damp, they won't gain it back. So they need to be just committing to this strategy that they put their sights on right now and going to the end.
Yeah, the thing for iRacing is the strength of the rain matters a lot. It seems to me, in my experience, I've actually still never driven the rain in iRacing yet, which is weird, but anyway. The strength of the rain seems to matter for the weather conditions a lot. And based on what we were seeing, this is pretty low-grade rain. And you know, we're seeing that on the radar, and I think we're seeing that come to fruition right now in real life as well. And that means that you can, A, survive for a long time on the dry tyres, but B, as he said, not lose so much time when that crossover point does happen. There is conditions, if it's heavy enough, where the dry tyres in iRacing in the wet conditions are absolutely useless, as they would be, of course. And that means that you do lose seconds upon seconds, but I don't know if we're going to get that here with the strength of this rain. And Yok Shu, I think, is proving here that I'm afraid these wet tyres are just not the ones to have at the moment. He's dropped outside the top 10 as a result. He might get back in it with Rickard Hemberton stopping here, but this is the wrong call, I'm afraid, for Yok Shu, unless it really rains in the next few moments.
But he has to stay out, because if he pits, he's dead in the water anyway. So he might as well just see what happens, hope the rain comes down more, and then he's surviving. But I guess if he loses so much time that when other drivers pit later on, if it gets wet enough, then he does want to lose a whole pit stop time, but I don't think he's going to do that. He's just going to lose position after position. So a bit of a reset now. 15 minutes to go. Byfeld leading Rosefist. He's basically gained a couple of seconds because of this. Sundstrom in third. Then we're getting this battle. We're seeing Crook, Holmer, Motin and Norberg on the screen, all inside this top 7 now. They've dropped a load of drivers behind. Estrava, Giros, etc. have dropped off by 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah. This is, it has thinned out at the front, definitely, and the gaps to the leader are always going to balloon now, with Marcus Byfeld leading by such a long way all over again here. Henrik Lindhoff, his rival, is just outside the top 10 at the moment, just trying to limit the damage here, and he'll take this as a drop week, and hope to go better in 2 weeks' time, try and regain some of the points. And he probably needs a round where he wins both races in one go, but that could be very, very tricky to do as well here this season, based on the speed that, once again, Marcus Byfeld is showing. But he's right on board with Gabriel Norberg again, and you can just see this rain is not that heavy. These dry tyres still getting on with the conditions very, very well indeed. They're starting to set some proper lap times now with the new fuel on board. And yes, they are close to a second away from where they should be. It's not that bad. And, Norberg thought about having a go.
So I think that's proof right there that there is grip out there, because he broke too late and he was still able to then regain control, and not, if there was no grip there, he would just sent it down the inside, because he wouldn't have been able to have any control of that situation. So it definitely shows that the grip is okay for now. Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? He's going to go to the left hand side. Can he brake late enough this time around into the second chicane? And he gets through on Oscar Motin. He had to make a bit of a meal of it over a couple of corners, but he's finally got that movement back up into 6th place.
Yeah, he's been late on the... You're right as well about the conditions. Another bit of proof there that it isn't that bad, but another bit of proof about the Porsche and how good it is on the brakes. It does have its flaws, this car, well documented, but it is very strong on the brakes and very nimble in that sort of area compared to the Aston Martin. And it was Gabriel Norberg able to use it there to get ahead of Jos Strouberg, Oscar Motin rather. Strouberg's in the next group behind. And Motin can't respond into Ascari either, so Norberg is into 6th place in number 6, and Daniel Holmer is next, and expect him to challenge the Mercedes there as well, just in the same way. Just look like that Porsche is enjoying these mixed conditions at the moment.
Certainly is. Can he work his way further forward? Because 3rd place is not too far up the road, and that would be a very nice position if he can get theirs. We're seeing Sundstrom, Crook, etc. get past, I think, some lapped traffic. Always looking at a 3-wide situation. There's Yokshu down to P20. He's losing so much time. He's 7 seconds a lap slower. So it's at this point where he's going to lose more time than everyone staying out and then making a wet pit stop. That is how much time he's going to lose to the end of the race compared to where he was. Ericsson here, he's got Linus Broström on the back of him, and Linus, he pit early, hasn't really worked out. He's still on those dry tyres, but it's just pitting early didn't work as he goes around the outside. Maybe there was some extra damage. Didn't quite see what his stop time was. No, stop time was fine, so it was just a bad strategic call there, as he's really struggling now to get past his old teammate of Håkan Schott.
Yeah, indeed. Schott trying to make sure he at least finishes sort of whereabouts he was in race 1 as well. Get 2 good results on the day, but unfortunately that is starting to slip away now for him, as well as it is for Broström. Both of them losing positions here in this part of the race. In the end, for Broström, that pit stop looked very badly timed, because he'd just pitted before rain started to fall, but since it hasn't actually required wet tyres, Broström has gotten away with it rather. As Christopher Geros finds the wall coming out of Lesmo 2. And that's going to drop him outside the top 10. After a decent run here, he is going to drop a long way back.
And look how many cars are going past him, as you say. There's such a train, so sometimes a bit later in the race here, just big snap on the rear, just really stopped any major issues. But yeah, the problem is that there's no big gaps. There's just a big train of cars that went straight past him. Yeah, he easily kept out of the barriers, but he couldn't fully reverse on, as it would have been straight in the racing line, and that would have been very, very dangerous indeed. Is Norberg, as we come up to 10 minutes to go, is Norberg going to be able to do anything? So there's about 6 laps remaining including the one that we're doing now. Can we see any final moves up inside the top 10 of this race? Byford is leading by only 3 seconds. He hasn't pulled away as much as I was expecting. And then this battle is for the podium. We've got Sundström holding off Crook. And it's Holman, Norberg, Motin, a 3-way battle behind.
Yeah. I do wonder whether Byfeld's just toning this down a little bit here just to make sure that he goes on and wins this race, and maybe he's missing a few of these apexes, missing a few of these curves. I was wondering, actually, seeing that replay from Geros, whether it is time through the Lesmos, especially Lesmo 2, to stop using that inside curve now like you would in the dry, and like they could get away with in the opening part of this race. Is it a risk you really want to take if you're not absolutely having to? Let's see what these guys do at the front this lap around, but it seems to me like that's too big of a risk to take because of the way the corner's profiled. It really pulls up water on the inside, and so there was already some there, and some places are going to be tipped over the limit in as far as how slippery they are a bit earlier than others. Here's Lesmo 2 itself, and everybody's surviving this time around, but it's already been the scene of a couple of spins for a couple of high-profile names.
Is the damage reduced in this race or something? Because that 303 machine was in the barrier and hard and still going absolutely fine. And then also, Henrik Lindorff, after his big accident, is in P9, but he's only about 4/10 a lap off Marcus Byfeld at the front, and he's doing the same times as basically the cars ahead of him. So the damage doesn't seem too bad today, and I guess maybe I was expecting a bit more, at least drag in the car, but no, not anything happening. Or they just had enough time to do some optional repairs during the pit stop, the 20-odd seconds that you're stationary at the pit stop, as that is certainly an interesting factor I have to get some answers to after the race. Kenneth Tier here, he's trying to hold on, but there's two teammates going either side of him, trying to make it work. They're not giving each other the slipstream though, which is interesting. Everton and Svensson not quite working together. Everton just doing his thing up ahead. Svensson doing the best to get past, and he finally does on the apex of T2.
Yeah, indeed. So, a very good drive from Rickard Everton in race 2 today to get up to 11th from 19th where he started. No benefit from a reverse grid for him. Not a very good first race, in fact. We saw him buried back in the pack for quite a while. But he's making some progress now to 11th. So, good news for him. And Svensson, as you say, has gotten away with one today. There's no doubt about that. That was a very big hit on the wall through Ascari. I don't think he came in early because of it. No, he didn't. And indeed, seemingly didn't have very much to repair when he got there. I mean, it was right on the corner as well. You'd expect to have really crunched some important bits, but it really didn't seem to. And Svensson is going to use that now to push on and try and get past Everton into 11th. He's in fact going to push him in towards Ascari here. The two may be working together for a moment.
Motin's got Norberg for P6. They swapped around not so long ago, and they swapped back once again. There is that Lindorff having a big weave behind Lucas Olsen, and then Gunnarsson as well in the 33. The teammates are side by side as Everton loses that battle. Svensson gets through. He's now in P11 after the contact. Motin and Norberg still go side by side. Who's going to come out on top when we get down to the braking zone at turn number 1? As Motin is on the inside. He's regained that position, but Stralberg on the outside. Can he get it back again? They continue to leave each other just about enough room. Oh, not without a big wiggle and a big bit of contact. Huge flashing of the lights as well, but they continue on.
Yeah, and the guy on the inside is often going to prevail here, although Motin's got to work for himself to get some space. Oh, there's contact. Contact at high speed for the Curva Grande. Norberg wanted to use the strategy I was speaking earlier of squeezing the guy on the inside of the Curva Grande down onto the curb and the wet, damp parts that are really congregating on the inside of that turn. And Motin wasn't having any of it, and there was a bit of contact there at high speed. They both had to catch their cars. And in the end, Motin just about hangs on to it. Norberg does as well, but the old Strauberg gets himself straight through. And he's now straight on the case as well. So this is going to be one to watch to the end.
That was both drivers getting a little bit hot-headed after some argy-bargy, multiple bits of door-to-door contact. I think neither was necessarily on purpose, but of course in the cockpit you don't have the perspective that we had, and all you do is you feel some contact and you think that the other driver's doing it on purpose. The good thing is we have some teammates here. This is the Hexagon Nation team having some 2 versus 1 action. He's going to be pushing him down the back straight in towards the final corner. They could slipstream their way past here, as Motin's going to have to hold it on the outside. We already know he likes the outside move. We saw him squeeze himself around Robert Ericsson in that previous race. Oh, he gets onto the wet patch, and he's going to go for a spin. The 94 couldn't catch it.
Yeah, it just shows that it looks like this rain's making no difference, but I think he would have been able to catch that earlier. And I don't think he can now, because this circuit has definitely got wetter on the painted surfaces to the sides of the racetrack. And that's why we see Motin going for that spin there. He's now behind Lindoff as well, who's up to 8th place as a result of this fight now. But for Norberg, the job's still not done. He wants to get back to 6th place. Doesn't matter against 2, but he wants to get into 6th here. And now it's Jo Strauberg he's got to try and get past for this position. We'll see if he can in towards the second chicane in these ever increasingly wet conditions now, but still not wet enough for wet tyres, and in any case they're going to persevere now to the end.
Oh yes, there's no point pitting right now. Even if you go so many seconds lap slower, even if it's 20 seconds lap slower, you're going to be absolutely fine to get to get to the end. So yes, they're just going to have to hold on. They're going to have to deal with it, but hopefully they can make it to the end in a rather nice fashion. No more big spins, but 4 minutes to go. Just about a couple of laps. When we get to the end of this lap, actually, it might be close to being 3 laps to go rather than just the 2, depending on where Byford is going across the line. He leads by 5 seconds, definitely not giving us the masterclass in terms of the lap speed that I was expecting him to pull away, or maybe this just shows you how good a job Rosefish is doing. Yeah,
well, maybe both's true. I think Byfeld personally hasn't quite been as dominant as before, because if you look at the gaps, it's not like Rosequist is also miles away from the rest. Over the course of a 45-minute race, these are very small gaps for a top 5 or so as far as this season's concerned. Normally it's Byfeld and Lundorf and a very big gap back to the rest, even when they have had to pass, 13, 14 drivers each to get back to the front for race 2. But Rosequist is being trailed by Sundström at the moment. Christopher Crook is there as well. They've also done a good job of staying relatively close. I especially think in these last 10 minutes or so that Byfeld has just toned it back a bit, really. Knows that these conditions can bite very, very quickly, and so he's making sure that doesn't happen to him here. As Jonas Gunnarsson is challenged by Sebastian Svensson, who's still on the march, and he's moving up to 9th place on the inside there as well.
Yeah, he must have got some damage repairs to that. That car is fast, that 303 machine, and he's working his way forward. Up into P9, I don't think he's going to get any more positions because Lindoff is ahead by 6 seconds with just 2.5 minutes to go. Gus Gunnarsson's trying to hold on to a top 10. That would be really good. He was down about 18th position at the start of this race, making some moves up. And Svenska's already moved up 11 positions himself. So it's definitely the day for moving positions further back. We're seeing drivers go off in the background, try and get out of the way of the drivers coming through. I think that's a lapped car actually trying to get himself out of the way. Certainly a difficult race for these drivers as the rain is really coming down now. We're about 3-4 seconds off the pace, but they're continuing on fairly nicely.
Yeah, they are. As I mentioned earlier, the lightness of this rain means that they've been able to continue on with the drives for a while, but now it is starting to have more and more of an effect, and I think if this was a longer race, we wouldn't be seeing too much longer before we see some pit stops here for wet weather tyres. At this stage in this race, you're never going to need them because there's only 1 lap to go, but you do have to think about survival a little bit more with the conditions the way they are. That's Linus Broström in the background there, by the way, going through on Kenneth Tier. Dante Forsberg, Joachim Frisk also in that group as well. And Tier goes a little bit wide, so he's in danger of losing all those places.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult one to work out. We got Forsberg getting past Frisk is just on the background of this. So 2 Porsches on the inside, with the BMW and the Aston on the outside, trying to work their way together with a little bit of a push draft. Actually, they're a bit too far away for that, so it's going to have to be the old-fashioned racing down in towards the first corner. Brostrom's going to come out in the lead. Kenneth Tier in second of this little battle. Forsberg thought he would have had a double overtake, but in the end, he has to sit there in P15.
Yeah, indeed. He did a good job there to make sure that didn't turn into 3 positions lost in 1, but unfortunately, he has lost 1, certainly to Linus, and now Dante Forsberg wants to make that another place down the inside, and that Porsche on the brake so strong again, although side-to-side contact. The Aston holds firm, and now maybe he can get the 2 to fight behind because Frisk gets through. Maybe he's going to get them both. It's a very good run for Frisk. He might well have them both here. He's on the inside, but no, and he gets loose, and I think he might have made contact with Forsberg there. It was very, very wet on the inside of Lesmo 1, given how much spray was kicked up, and there might have been contact.
But the man out the front, dominant as ever, Marcus Byfeld. He was not in command of this championship before the previous round at Laguna Seca, but he got double victory. And then for the second round in a row, he's going to get double victory again here at Monza. The Feather Online Gaming race goes to Marcus Byfeld, the 105 machine. Maximum points today after pole position, fastest lap, winning the 2 races as well. And he regains the championship lead with that one. Roseqvist, after being outside of the top 20 on points before this race, then goes up into second and gets a podium finish with Sundström in 3rd place. And some final positions to be sorted out coming through. Kerber Alboreto, and up towards the line, Kenneth Tier. He's got the run. This is P14. Frisk is going to be behind for the P15 position, as it was close battles out there in a difficult race here in the rain.
Yeah, it was very, very tricky in the rain indeed. And it's continuing on further down as well. Yok Shu and Kalev Wallingstam in towards, Marcus Stiller, sorry, this is rather, in the Ferrari, making his way past Lars Reistad. These are both on dry tyres, but the reason I mentioned Wallingstam and so on, they're very close behind. They're on the wet tyres, or at least Yok Shu is there in that group with Wallingstam. So there are some of these guys who've fallen all the way back on the treaded tyres. Only now is it starting to make sense, but it's far too late in the race. Even now, actually, they're still slower than the dry tyre runners. They've taken out the best out their wet tyres anyway. It's turned out to be the wrong call. On another day, you go alone and you're the hero. On this day, unfortunately for Yok Shu, he's thrown away what was a pretty certain top 10, or certainly a very likely top 10. He's not even been able to finish in the top 25.
Yeah, he's basically over a minute away from where he would have been. So definitely the wrong call. But as you said, on another day, if that rain came a bit earlier, he might have been able to get some position. Having said that, in the end, even when it was raining, he was still slower. But I think that's because he probably by that point has overheated the wet tyres. Anyway, here's the result from today's 24-lap race. Marcus Byfeld leading at the end after a double victory, with Roseqvist and Sundström there into 3rd position. Crick Holmer, Strolberg, Norberg, Lindhoff, Svensson and Gunnarsson the top 10, and once again Byfeld getting the fast lap. So that was maximum points today with all of the bonuses as well. Motin, Enforden, Brostrom, Tier, Frisk, Forsberg, Ericsson, Schott, Svensson and Giros. The top 20. All these drivers still within a minute of the lead, which is not too bad after tricky conditions. Backman, Coulson, Gran, Hagman, Stiller, Reistad, Wallingsam, Shu, Forsell and Norgren. The top 30. And then we got Hillestrom, Kinnell, Brostrom, Pennings, Oberg and Pfeffer. The final drivers really in contention. Then the drivers having issues today was Dalstrand, Alterwill, Oriksson and Olsen, the top 40. And then the final couple of names, Magnussen, Matheson, Bredesen, Filikovsky and Ullman towards the back of the field. But yes, Marcus Byfeld getting a double victory, and of course Roseqvist getting his first podium. But let's get a word with Mikael Sundström here in the 899 machine. And Mikael, really nice to talk to you here for nearly on pace Aston Martin. And once again, a very, very fast driver for you today out there. How did you find those conditions in the rain at the end?
It's fantastic. I love those conditions. Like the in-between slicks on slightly wet track. It's so much fun.
Absolutely, and you definitely had some good pace today. You're on the second row in qualifying. You're really so challenging towards the front. You were only 7th place in the standings coming into this, 45 points off Dan Holmer in 3rd. Do you really think you can challenge for that 3rd place? Because of course Marcus and Henrik are sort of up the road a little bit, but do you think 3rd place is a good target for you?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying for it. I shot myself in the foot slightly with the VIR results. They were really not my best day of racing. But I'm trying for it. I mean, it's best of the rest. That's what we're the rest of us is fighting for.
Yeah. I know you're in a different chassis to Marcus, but is there anything you can try and learn from him? Maybe you've been teammates for a little while now. Do you think there's something that you could add to your skills maybe in the GT3s?
Yeah, I'm trying to, but it's hard. I'm old. These young guns are too fast. But I'm trying. I've been racing ACC a lot before, so the GT3s are very different in this game. So it's a learning process still, I think. That certainly makes sense. Definitely a bit of a different feel between the two. And we go to Interlagos next. How are you feeling for that track? It's often quite good fun on your own, but how do you think that's going to be racing-wise? Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to expect. I've raced that once in IndyCar, I think, but that's in this championship, in fact. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Let's hope there's some rain to spice it up, maybe. That's usually the case at that track.
Yeah, certainly. It was great to talk to you, Mikkel, and we'll hopefully speak to you again this season.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And then we'll bring in Oliver Rosefist here, who, as I mentioned before today, was down in P24 in the standings in these 211 Aston Martin. So, Oliver, for you, that is going to be a great jump up the standings with a 2nd place finish today. How were you feeling out there? Clearly, very fast.
Yeah, it felt really well. I was really happy with how the car felt on this track. I had quite limited amount of practice, so I'm extremely happy about this result.
Yes, certainly. It was interesting conditions out there with the rain. How was it, especially in the first half of that race? It looked like there was a little bit of drizzle. It was slightly damp on the tarmac. The lap time seemed good, though. So did it feel a bit uncomfortable, or did it just feel like dry conditions?
Yeah, it was mostly dry, but there was a bit of puddles on the racing line, which could be a bit uncomfortable when you hit them. But it was mostly fine, and as you said, lap times were still fast. So.
And then as the rain came towards the end, we went about 4 seconds a lap slower on dry tyres. That must have been quite interesting.
Yeah, it was quite hard to keep it in the track on the end there, but the dry tyre was always going to be better to keep on.
Yeah, absolutely. So was there never really a condition where you'd go to the wet tyres? Because I guess the race would have to be quite a bit longer for you to gain that time back.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at the amount of rain on the radar, it wasn't that heavy. So yeah, I was not really considering wets.
Yeah, certainly. And as you've now got, your first podium of the season, so well done for that. What can you set your sights on? Are we going to be talking to you again later on in the season?
I mean, I hope so. I feel like this was one of my best chances with this track. I'm quite comfortable with this track compared to the others later in the season, but never know what happens.
Yes, certainly. Well, hopefully we talk to you again. It'd be nice to meet you, Oliver, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, thank you.
All right, well, that was a great round here at Monza. 2 entertaining races, and of course we ended up in the rain as well. But it was Marcus Byfeld who was able to come out on top with a double victory, and that puts us at the halfway point in the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's Road Course Series for 2026. We go to Interlagos, then Brands Hatch, Sonoma and Suzuka over the next month or so to round out this championship. Marcus Byfeld has got 1 foot through the door, but with drop rounds and everything coming into play, I think Henrik Lindhoff is going to be a big target. But of course, we go back to oval racing next week as well. That is going to be a whole load of fun. We go to New Hampshire for a bit of flat track racing before in 2 weeks' time we return to Interlagos here on the GT3 side of things. It's been myself, Cam Roger, Yona Leary, alongside me, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. And until next week at New Hampshire, or a couple of weeks in Interlagos, we wish you a very warm goodbye.